News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm John Tucker.
And John, the drop in stocks we are seeing around the world comes ahead of President Donald Trump's planned announcement of tariffs on Wednesday. White House officials had insisted earlier this month the levies would be more targeted, with some nations being excluded. But on Air Force One last night, the president pushed back on that idea.
You'd start with all countries, so let's see what happens. There are many countries. I haven't heard a rumor about 15 countries, 10 or 15.
So you're starting with all countries?
Essentially, all of the countries that we're talking about. We'll be talking about all countries. That's not a cutoff.
President Trump's indicated the plan will go beyond matching tariffs that other countries slap on U.S. imports to include things like value-added taxes and regulations that the White House sees as unfair.
And President Trump also threatening secondary tariffs on buyers of Russian oil if Vladimir Putin doesn't agree to a ceasefire with Ukraine. In an interview with NBC News, the president said he was very angry with Putin for questioning Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as a negotiating partner, but he softened his tone with Putin on Air Force One.
I don't think he's going to go back on his word. I've known him for a long time. We've always gotten along well. He considers Zelensky not credible. He's supposed to be making a deal with him, whether you like him or you don't like him. So I wasn't happy with that.
At the same time, President Trump pressuring Zelensky to agree to a deal on critical resource access, saying if Ukraine backs out of the rare earths deal, he's got, quote, big problems.
And John, President Trump's push for a ceasefire in Ukraine is drawing praise from his allies on Capitol Hill. Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen reacted on NBC's Meet the Press.
President Trump makes very clear where his positions are, and he's tough on all situations, but he's wanting to go through diplomacy first before anything else takes place. So him having a friendship or trying to have a relationship with Russia before this goes to this place was the right move. Now he's saying he's done.
And President Trump also refusing to rule out running for a third term. He told NBC there are methods that would allow him to run again. When asked about it on Air Force One, the president had this to say.
I didn't want to talk about it. I'm just telling you, I have had more people say, please run again. I said, we have a long way to go before we even think about that.
Well, the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution limits presidents to just 2 terms. It was enacted after Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected to a 4th term in 1944.
Let's turn back to markets now, John. As we said, futures and stocks around the world are sliding as we begin a new trading week. In Japan, the Nikkei entered correction territory. And as you mentioned, gold once again is trading at a record. Heading into today's session, the S&P 500 is down more than 5%. That's in contrast to stocks in Europe. They are higher by 12% for the quarter. Bloomberg Intelligence Director of Equity Research, Tim Craighead, has more on the divergence.
After years clearly of a tech-driven, tech-led rally in the U.S. outperforming basically everything, this has been a 3-month period where we've had DeepSeek meet a German bazooka in terms of spending meets Donald Trump tariffs. And it's those 3 factors that have turned tech on its head, have ignited optimism that we're not going to let this crisis in Europe go to waste, and we're actually going to get some collaboration and integration and movement.
That's Tim Craighead of Bloomberg Intelligence. The risk of tariff-linked damage has propelled the S&P 500 to its worst quarter since 2022, wiping $5 trillion off its value from a record high in February.
And Nathan, Goldman Sachs is cutting its S&P 500 target for a second time this month. They're citing higher recession risk and tariff-related uncertainty. The team, led by David Kostin, now sees the benchmark to ending the year around 5,700 points versus their previous estimate of 6,200. The new target implies gains of just 2% from Friday's close. It's among the lowest on Wall Street, according to data compiled by Bloomberg. And finally, the head of France's National Rally Party, Marine Le Pen, has been convicted of embezzlement by a Paris court, and it threatens the far-right leader's possible 2027 bid for president. She and her party are found guilty of diverting millions of euros in EU funds to finance activities related to their domestic agenda. Le Pen denies wrongdoing, claims the prosecution is seeking her political death, as she puts it. The judge is still reading out their decision this morning. If she enters the race, Le Pen would currently be the leading candidate to replace Emmanuel Macron in 2027.
And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Nathan Hager.
I'm John Tucker, and this is Bloomberg.